Okay, so now first we'll start with the gram-negative. Okay, so in the gram-negative bacteria, we already saw the classification, right? This was the classification of gram-negative bacteria. You had some curved rods like Vibrio, you had Campylobacter, and you had Helicobacter pylori. Now Helicobacter pylori, what I've discussed here, that's enough. Okay, so just remember the IM part of it, which will include the tests, screening test, biopsy, the CLO test, okay, and then CLO test also called urease test, then the symptoms of peptic ulcer, what are the complications of peptic ulcer, most common three complications of peptic ulcer, right? Bleeding, perforation, and gastric outlet obstruction. So most common complication is bleeding, then most common location is the duodenum. Then you have, for the micro part, you just remember the urease test, which will include the yellow to pink. The mnemonic was YUP, right? Yellow to pink, if it happens, that is urease test. And the stain is Wharton starry stain. Okay, so that's for Helicobacter pylori. The others, what are we going to discuss mainly? First, we're starting with the bacilli part. Okay, so in the bacilli part, you will be discussing the lactose fermenters. The mnemonic we learned, right? Cercoli enters club and sits, right? So that those organisms. Then we'll learn about the Pseudomonas, then we'll learn Salmonella, Shigella and all. Okay, so first let's start with the we're starting with E. coli. Okay, so E. coli, as you know, it is Cercolis, right? It's a lactose fermenter. Okay, it's a bacilli. Okay, we're starting with bacilli. Now in E. coli, basically, these are the names of the bacilli. I have written it here. E. coli, Klebsiella, Proteus, Salmonella, Shigella, Pseudomonas, Vibrio, Haemophilus. Haemophilus, what was the thing we need to remember? Haemophilus, he likes chocolate, right? So it's grown on chocolate agar, okay? Hayseck, Pertussis, Brucella, Yersinia, Legionella. All these are gram-negative bacilli. Now, in the bacilli, all of the bacilli are catalase positive. See, this is about gram-negative. When I was talking about gram-positive, in that the catalase positive was Staphylococcus, okay? In gram-negative bacilli, all are catalase positive except for catalase negative Shigella dysentery, okay? So first, let's start with E. coli. Now, E. coli are bacilli. So in this image, this is a gram stain. I see a lot of rods, right? I see a lot of rods. And all these rods are pink in color. So this is a gram-negative bacilli. So now what does E. coli cause? It's the most common cause of UTI, right? E. coli is the most common cause of UTI. And there's one definition which keeps being asked is what is the definition of significant bacteriuria? Okay, so that happens when there are more than 10 to the power 5 E. coli per ml of urine. Okay, remember that. Whenever you do urine culture, the sample which should be a midstream urine. Okay, midstream urine sample. Now, the screening test for E. coli would be leukocyte esterase test and catalase test. Remember this test, leukocyte esterase. Okay, it's a screening test for UTI. Okay, screening test for UTI is leukocyte esterase test. Learn that. Confirmatory test for UTI is urine culture. Okay. Now, E. coli can also cause diarrhea. Now, there are types of E. coli. You have the ETEC, erythrotoxigenic E. coli, erythropathogenic E. coli, entro. Okay, enterotoxigenic, enteropathogenic, enterohemorrhagic, enteroinvasive, and enteroaggregate. Okay, so out of this, the main point which you should remember is, for number one, the toxicogenic E. coli causes traveler's diarrhea. Okay, that's one thing, which is basically watery diarrhea. So toxicogenic, T for traveler, T for toxicogenic E. coli. Then you have the enteropathogenic E. coli. Okay, so pathogenic also causes diarrhea, but the main age group will be kids. Okay, infants. That's a very important part for pathogenic E. coli. Okay, EPEC, remember, watery diarrhea in infants. Then for hemorrhagic, now this it's hemorrhagic. Okay, so basically it's going to invade the mucosa and then it's going to cause the bleeding, right? So it's, first of all, this is bloody diarrhea, hemorrhagic bloody diarrhea. It's not watery. Okay, so for enterohemorrhagic E. coli, as the name suggests, it causes bloody diarrhea. And now this hemorrhagic E. coli, okay, one of the serotypes is 0157H7, right? This is the E. coli which is going to cause hemolytic uremic syndrome. This is the E. coli which is going to cause hemolytic uremic syndrome. If you will revise here, what was the triad of hemolytic uremic syndrome? You had hemolysis, you had uremia, and you had thrombocytopenia. Thrombocytopenia, that means low platelets. So this was the triad of hemolytic uremic syndrome. In this, what are the cells which you see? You see helmet cells, and then you see Burr cells, right? So this was about HUS. Okay, HUS is caused by, and what was the toxin? It was verotoxin or verocytotoxin. Okay, verotoxin or verocytotoxin. So we have enterohemorrhagic E. coli, which will cause bloody diarrhea. It is associated with HUS, which subtype 0157H7. Triad of HUS, please remember that. Okay, and HUS has helmet cells and Burr cells. Then you have entero-invasive E. coli. So this will also invade. So this will also cause bloody diarrhea. Okay, remember two things for bloody diarrhea: hemorrhagic, invasive. Okay, hemorrhagic is telling you it has bloody diarrhea. Invasive, if it invades, obviously there will be damage to the mucosa and there will be bloody diarrhea. Okay, so bloody diarrhea, it resembles shigellosis. Okay, entero-aggregative E. coli. Now this one also has watery diarrhea. So for bloody diarrhea, you have two of them. Others are watery diarrhea. For traveler's diarrhea, remember toxicogenic. For diarrhea in children, you remember pathogenic. Okay. So that is about E. coli. These are the important points. Next, going to Klebsiella. Now Klebsiella, you have four types of Klebsiella. Okay. First, Klebsiella granulomatis. Now Klebsiella granulomatis causes donovenosis. We studied this in derma. I hope you remember. It's one of the STDs, right? It's one of the sexually transmitted diseases. Klebsiella granulomatis causes donovenosis, also called granuloma inguinale. Okay. Now, how does this present? If you remember, donovenosis presents with a beefy red ulcer, right? Which bleeds. Okay. Beefy red ulcer. Now, donovenosis is causes a painless ulcer, right? The only STD which was painful was Haemophilus ducrei causing chancroid. Okay, that was the painful ulcer. Haemophilus ducrei causing chancroid was painful. All other STDs which we learnt in that table were painless. Okay, so this is also painless. What do you see in microscopy? You see this cells inside the macrophage. This whole cell is the macrophage. Inside the macrophage, I'm seeing cells. How do these cells look like? They have the safety pin appearance. Okay, so now these are called Donovan bodies. What are they? They are Donovan bodies. Okay, and what was the treatment of donovenosis? We gave azithromycin. Okay, we gave azithromycin for treatment of Klebsiella granulomatis. Then we studied in ENT that Klebsiella oozine causes atrophic rhinitis. And what do you learn in atrophic rhinitis in ENT? Atrophic rhinitis, it will have because of the, basically what is happening, the normal columnar epithelium of the nose becomes squamous epithelium, which leads to a lot of space in the nose, right? So a lot of air goes inside. First point is there's a roomy nasal cavity. Because of that, a lot of air goes inside, and there are a lot of dry crusts, right? Dry crusts, a lot of crusts, and what else? You have anosmia, right? You cannot smell, and there's like a very bad smell also. Okay. The next thing which also you study in ENT is Klebsiella rhinoscleromatosis. Okay. Now Klebsiella rhinoscleromatosis causes what? Rhinoscleroma. Now what is rhinoscleroma? Rhinoscleroma is woody nose or taper nose. Okay. And in that you see cells which are called Miculus cells and Russell bodies, which we learned. Okay. This is done in ENT. Just it's a revision thing which you're doing now. Klebsiella granulomatis was done in derma, right? We learned about donovenosis. Klebsiella oozine and rhinoscleromatosis both are conditions involving the nose, right? After that, you have Klebsiella pneumoniae, which we learned about in IM. Okay, when we learned IM, when we were learning about pneumonia, we said that the pneumonia which is specific to alcoholics, okay, which will cause current jelly sputum in alcoholics, that is Klebsiella pneumoniae. Okay, this is also called Friedlander's bacilli. It will cause red current jelly sputum, And a sign which we learned was bulging fissure sign. So this is how the bulging fissure sign looks like here. You can see the bulging fissure. So bulging fissure sign, and red currant jelly sputum is for Klebsiella pneumoniae. So you can remember it like Klebsiella is Friedlander's bacilli. You can remember in the club they sell like fried chips, okay, or something like that. So fried and club, okay. So Friedlander's bacilli is actually Klebsiella, okay. Red currant jelly sputum, bulging fissure sign for Klebsiella pneumoniae. Okay, that's done. So all the 4 Klebsiella should be very clear. After that, we go to Proteus. Now Proteus mein one thing which we learned already in surgery, we saw that a Proteus causes true white stones, right, which I mentioned earlier also. Also Proteus, we also mentioned before that it has UDAs, okay, that's why it forms true white stones. Then on culture, how are you going to see? You're going to see this swarming motility, okay. Swarming motility. If you see this kind of motility seen, okay, that is for Proteus, okay. Remember, that's one thing. The full name is Proteus mirabilis, okay. That's enough for Proteus. After that, let's go to Salmonella. Now, where did you study Salmonella? We were comparing Salmonella versus Shigella. Which one had sulfide? Sulfide was produced by Salmonella, right? Shigella did not have H2S production, okay. So that's one important point which I told you to remember, positive H2S, okay. So for Salmonella, we know it causes typhoid, right? It causes typhoid. Typhoid has rose spots, right? So this is the image of rose spots which I've added. Typhoid is also associated with stepladder fever, okay. What if you see stepladder pattern on electrophoresis, okay? On gel electrophoresis, if you see stepladder pattern, that is seen in apoptosis, okay. Stepladder fever is seen in Salmonella. Now both Salmonella and Shigella have bloody diarrhea, okay. Then an important question about typhoid is at what week you'll use which test, right? So the mnemonic is BASU, BASU. So for the first week you use the blood culture, second week you use the agglutination test, which is the Whittle's test, stool culture for the third week, and then urine for the fourth week, okay. So this image which I've shown here, this is actually the Vidal test, okay, for typhoid. So just be familiarized with this image, okay. This is the image for Vidal test for typhoid. After that we have Shigella. Now Shigella also causes bloody diarrhea, okay. Then next you go to Pseudomonas. Now Pseudomonas, basically it's the organism Pseudomonas aeruginosa, okay. So this also we have already studied this in multiple places. So try to recall them. So first, when you were studying about otitis externa, okay, malignant otitis externa. So in which we studied that they're going to have black color discharge, okay, and mostly it will happen in what? Diabetics, immunocompromised patients, okay, and that will involve the skull bones also, okay. It will cause osteomyelitis also, right? So that is malignant otitis externa caused by Pseudomonas. Also, most of the infections of the external ear, the ear canal, that it's caused by Pseudomonas, okay. Most of the infection of the ear canal, otitis externa, caused by Pseudomonas. Then in Pseudomonas, we also in IM we learned that ventilator associated pneumonia is Pseudomonas. How did we learn that? We said that ventilator mein you're going to put a fake pipe, right? You're going to use a fake pipe inside, so it's like pseudo, okay. So ventilator is not the natural ventilation, it's the fake ventilation, okay. So that is pseudo for fake, okay. So Pseudomonas causes ventilator associated pneumonia. Also important thing for burn infection, burn wound infections, very important, okay. Pseudomonas is the cause of burn wound infections. Then other things which we have to remember is hot tub folliculitis, ecthema, and Shanghai fever, okay. Ecthema, this image which I've shown you here, this is actually the image of ecthema, okay. Now it can be single or it can be multiple, okay, disseminated. Next you go to this image here is for malignant Malignant otitis externa. Okay. Then we have the next thing, we have Vibrio cholera. Okay, so Vibrio cholera has a darting motility or shooting star motility. Okay, very important. Now, the mechanism of action of Vibrio cholerae has been asked in the previous questions, so that is important to learn. So, how is it? Basically, the cholera toxin, it has two subunits. Okay, it has the alpha subunit and it has the beta subunit, or AB. Okay, A subunit and B subunit. Now, look at this. This is the cell. This is the intestinal cell. Now, what is happening? Which subunit is binding to the cell? Okay, who's binding? The beta subunit binds, right? So beta subunit binds. So B for binding. Okay, it binds to the GM1 ganglioside receptor. Then after binding, which subunit enters? Which subunit enters? The A subunit enters, right? A subunit enters. It couples to the G protein and it increases what? It increases CAMP. Okay, adenylate cyclase. Okay, CAMP, also called adenylate cyclase. Now the options will be like CAMP, CGMP. Okay, remember it's CAMP. Okay, CAMP is increased, and because of this, what happens? The water from inside the cell will go out into the lumen of the intestine, which will result in diarrhea. Okay, so that is the mechanism of action of the cholera toxin. Okay, remember, B subunit binds, A subunit enters, increases CAMP, the water from inside the cell goes out, leading to diarrhea. Okay, now there's a very important media for Vibrio cholera which should be learned. This is called thiosulfate citrate bile salt agar. Okay, in this agar you will have a green color agar in which you will have yellow colonies. This is for cholera. Okay, very important. Remember that this is the best selective media for cholera. Also, the other media which for cholera, which we studied V for Venkatraman, right? So Vibrio for V and Venkatraman media for V. Also remember Carrie Blair. Okay, Blair. So these both are transport media for Vibrio. So transport media, you can remember carrying something is transporting it. So Carrie Blair is a transport media. You have enrichment media, alkaline peptone water, and then the main thing for cholera, try to remember this, TCBS. Okay, thiosulfate citrate bile salt agar, bile salt sucrose agar. Next disease is Haemophilus. Now Haemophilus, there are two important ones which we will learn. One is the Haemophilus ducrei. Now I told you for Haemophilus, remember he likes chocolate, so Haemophilus chocolate agar. Okay. Other than that, we have two. One is Haemophilus ducrei, one is Haemophilus influenza. Haemophilus ducrei matlab dukh raha hai, it's paining. Okay, so it causes a painful ulcer. So painful ulcer is called chancroid. Now chancroid has the school of fish appearance or tram track appearance, right? School of fish or tram track. After that, you have Haemophilus influenza. Now, it was the most common cause of epiglottitis. Now it has changed. Now it is Streptococcus pneumoniae. I don't know after that whether it has changed, but the most recent one I heard was Strep pneumonia is the most common cause of epiglottitis. Before that, they used to say H influenza is the most common cause of epiglottitis. Now, if you know about epiglottitis, what do we learn in ENT? It presents with thumb sign, right? Thumb sign. The patient is in the tripod position, right? Thumb sign, this sign, right? You can see the inflamed epiglottis here. Okay, and then this is the tripod position. Okay, now Haemophilus influenza can also cause meningitis, a very important cause. It also causes otitis media, sinusitis. Okay, and out of the Haemophilus influenza, the most virulent is the type B. Okay, most virulent is the type B. Then HASEC is also gram-negative bacilli. HASEC will include, you have to remember the names properly. Okay, it's important. One is Haemophilus aprophilus, Aggregatibacter, Cardiobacterium hominis, Echinella cordens, and Kingella. Now, all of these cause what? They cause culture-negative endocarditis. Okay, very important, culture-negative endocarditis. Yeah, culture-negative endocarditis. Okay, remember, culture-negative endocarditis is caused by HASEC group of organisms. Okay. Now, there are other causes of culture-negative endocarditis also. Even SLE will cause culture-negative endocarditis. You'll also have rheumatic. No. You'll have SLE. you'll have NBT, non-bacterial thrombotic endocarditis, and you'll have HASEC, which will cause culture negative endocarditis. Okay, so HASEC, remember, causes culture negative endocarditis. It will not grow quickly on culture. It takes a lot of time to grow, so it will look like it is culture negative. Okay, but these organisms, the name of these organisms should be remembered. Then you have the next organism, Bordetella pertussis. So pertussis is whooping cough. Okay, pertussis is what? Whooping cough, also called 100-day cough. Okay, whooping cough, also called 100-day cough. Now for pertussis, please remember the stages. Okay, the first stage is catarrhal stage, paroxysmal stage, and convalescent stage. Okay, the first stage just has coryza, runny nose. Okay, then low grade fever. The paroxysmal stage is the stage in which you'll have the whooping cough. Okay, that's asked. Whooping cough happens in which stage? The answer is paroxysmal stage. Okay, and then the convalescent stage is the recovery stage of it. Okay, so pertussis is the 100-day cough, also called whooping cough. It has 3 stages. Paroxysmal stage will have the whooping cough. Okay, the catarrhal stage will just have fever and it will have runny nose. Then we have brucella. Now brucella, what did we learn for that? Brucella, we learned Castaneda media, right? Bruce Lee casts down. Okay, so now remember what the important things about brucella. Okay, so first we'll remember the media that we have learned. After that, remember, this comes from contaminated animal products, basically drinking unpasteurized milk. Now brew is like brew coffee. I mean, for drinking brew coffee you need milk. Okay, just learn it comes by drinking unpasteurized milk. So you'll know it's a zoonotic disease. It comes through animals, right? So it's a zoonotic disease, comes from unpasteurized milk, causes a very important finding, undulent fever. Okay, remember this word, undulent fever is related to brucella. Okay, remember the U in brucella. Okay, brucella mein jo U aata hai, from that you can remember undulent fever. Okay, very important. Then night sweats and arthralgia. Okay, so remember this term undulent fever. If they mention this, they are talking about brucella. Then we go to Yersinia pestis. Now Yersinia pestis causes the plague, right? It's related to rats, right? Now when it grows, when you grow it on the ghee broth, okay, ghee broth, you'll have this stalactite colonies, which are basically colonies like glaciers. Okay, so this is how the glaciers are supposed to, colonies which are like glaciers. Okay, this thing, so it will look like that. Okay, so that's called stalactite colonies. Now Yersinia pestis, you use a stain which is basin stain, in which you see again the safety pin like colonies, organisms again. So safety pin basically means bipolar staining. Both the ends of the, suppose this is the rod, both the ends will be stained, so that will look like a safety pin appearance. Okay, so that's what you will see for Yersinia also. The same thing you saw for Donovan bodies, right? Donovan bodies, Klebsiella granulomatis had the same thing, but that was inside the macrophage. Okay, and this is basin stain. Okay, basin stain is used for Yersinia. Now so Yersinia basin. Okay, Yersinia basin stain, ghee broth. Okay, Yersinia basin stain, ghee broth, rats, plague. Okay, the next thing you look at is Legionella pneumophila. Okay, so Legionella, it will actually come from the it's present in the aerosols which come from humidified air. Examples, air of centralized ACs and all. So I told you to remember it like legions are like devils. So just imagine like a horror movie in which there are some legions coming out of the AC of your room. Okay, so Legionella comes from the ACs. Now this Legionella can cause Legionnaire's pneumonia. It can also cause Pontiac fever. Okay, so remember Legionella, Pontiac fever, Legionella will also cause pneumonia. Okay, related to the aerosols. After that, what do we have? We have so this is about the bacilli. After that, you have gram-negative spirochetes. Okay, now spirochetes are basically spiral shaped gram-negative organisms, right? So you have three. You have Treponema, you have Borrelia, and you have Leptospira. Okay. So for Treponema, you have to remember that there are 4 types of Treponema mainly, which you have to study about. One is Treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis. Okay. Then you have Treponema pertune, carinatum, and endemicum. Now, out of this one, the Treponema pallidum causes syphilis. It is a sexually transmitted disease. The rest of them are non-STDs. Okay, they are not sexually transmitted diseases. So what do we need to let's try to learn this. So for Treponema endemicum, it causes endemic syphilis. Okay, so endemicum starts with E, and the name of the disease is called Begel. Okay, Begel. So it has double E. Okay, so remember that if it has double E, it is caused by endemicum. Then we have Treponema pertune. Okay, and then which causes yaws, and then you have Caratium, which causes Pinta. Okay, Pinta. So how will we remember that? Okay, you can remember it like you should be careful when you're using pins. Okay, so if there are pins, they might poke you, right? So you should be careful. Okay, so the Caratium is for Pinta and pertune is for yaws. Okay, pallidum is for syphilis. Now for diagnosis of syphilis, the microscopy that is done is dark field microscopy. This image is very important. Okay, this is called dark field microscopy or dark ground microscopy. Okay, dark field microscopy. Okay, after that, what do you have? What are the stages of syphilis? Many questions come from this. Okay, many questions come from this stages of syphilis. You need to know this properly. So the first stage is primary syphilis. Now, how does primary syphilis present? It presents with a chancre. Now, this chancre is a painless chancre. Okay, so that is about primary syphilis. Secondary syphilis is a more systemic illness which will have rashes. The key word is rashes on palms and soles. Okay, so there will be rashes throughout the body, but also it will involve the palms and soles. So whenever the question says rashes in the palms and soles, one of the things you should think about is syphilis, and the other thing you think about is arsenic poisoning. Okay, even that presents with raindrop pigmentation involving the palms and soles. So syphilis secondary stage has rash involving palms and soles. Also, what else do you have? Then you have the latent syphilis, in which there will be no symptoms. Okay, there will be no symptoms. Then you have late syphilis or tertiary syphilis. So tertiary syphilis will involve the brain, neurosyphilis, including tabes dorsalis. Okay, so remember the word tabes dorsalis. Then you can also have gumas, which are present, which are basically like ulcerative lesions on the skin. Okay. Then cardiovascular involvement in syphilis, mainly remember aneurysms like aortic aneurysms. This we have discussed a lot of times. Okay, so I hope you remember it now. So remember, gumas are for the late stage or tertiary stage. Okay, cardiovascular involvement like aortic aneurysms, tertiary stage. Neurosyphilis, tertiary stage. Secondary stage will have rashes, right? Secondary stage has rashes. Primary has chancre. Okay. Now, so this is the rash which I was talking about, rash on the palms and soles seen in syphilis. Okay. Also, especially when we talk about congenital syphilis and even in other forms, I guess, you have this teeth. Okay. Congenital syphilis has this teeth. This teeth is the incisors. Okay, and the canines, when they are of this shape, this is called Hutchinson teeth. Okay, when they are notched. What is this? This is Hutchinson teeth. Okay, Hutchinson teeth and Hutchinson triad both are seen in congenital syphilis. Okay, but the Hutchinson pupil, where did we see it? Hutchinson pupil was seen when we were talking about head trauma. If there is an intracranial hemorrhage, there will be the ipsilateral pupil will be mid dilated. Okay, that was Hutchinson pupil. Okay, Hutchinson teeth, Hutchinson triad, both are present, both are for congenital syphilis. Then you look at the molars here in the second diagram. These molars look like mulberry. Okay, so these are called mulberry molars. Mulberry molars. So this is also present in syphilis. Okay, so Hutchinson teeth, mulberry molars, remember for syphilis. Now in syphilis, for lab diagnosis of syphilis, one of them was the microscopy, dark field microscopy, which we talked about, and the next thing you have a non-treponemal test and you have treponemal tests. You need to know the names of the non-treponemal tests. They are VDRL and RPR. Know the names, okay? Because they have even asked questions related which is a non-treponemal test, which is a treponemal test, like that. Okay, so treponemal test, in which we actually look for the organism. Okay, in that you have the fluorescent FTAABS, okay, fluorescent treponemal antibody test, okay, that, and then you have treponemal immobilization assay, TPI, okay. So these are treponemal tests. Even if you look at the name has T, okay. If the name has T, that's a treponemal test, okay. The most sensitive test here is the fluorescent treponemal antibody test, and the most specific test is treponema immobilization assay. Drug of choice for syphilis, very common question, very commonly asked, it is benzathine penicillin, except for neurosyphilis, in which you have penicillin G, okay, the injectable form. Next, we go to Borrelia. Now, Borrelia, you have two types of Borrelia main. One is Borrelia Burgdorferi, and the other one is Borrelia vincenti. Okay, so the more important one is the one which causes Lyme's disease. So Borrelia Burgdorferi. Okay, so this causes Lyme's disease. Okay, now Lyme's disease is also called erythema chronicum migrans. Okay, so this is transmitted by a tick. So this is a tick. Okay, this is a tick, and the tick transmits Lyme's disease. Now Lyme's disease has this bullseye lesion. Okay, this bullseye lesion. Okay, this, remember that this is present in Lyme's disease, transmitted by a tick, caused by Borrelia Burgdorferi. I'm not able to pronounce it. Burgdorferi. Okay. Then you have Borrelia vincenti, which causes trench mouth or Vincent's angina. This image here. Okay, trench mouth or Vincent's angina. Okay, this is for Borrelia. Okay. Remember Lyme's disease at least. It's important. Transmitted by tick, bullseye lesion, called erythema chronicum migrans. Then we have Leptospira. Now Leptospira, the full name is Leptospira interrogans. For Leptospira, always remember this diagram. So what do you see here? It's again a zoonotic disease. You can see animals which have urinated in water. So what happens that, like, suppose there's flooding in an area. So there's a lot of chance that you're going to walk on the urine of animals. Okay, now that's the way you get a Leptospira. Okay, so Leptospira is found in water contaminated with animal urine. Okay, that's an important thing about Leptospira. What will happen? You will start having flu-like symptoms. That can also be liver involvement, presenting with jaundice. Okay, photophobia, and then muscle aches. Okay, so muscle pain and flu-like symptoms after walking in flooded areas or something like that. If that's the case, they're talking about Leptospira. Okay, so after walking in a flooded area, patient presents with myalgias and flu-like symptoms, think about Leptospira. Now Leptospira, a complication of it is called Weil's disease. So what happens in Weil's disease? You need to remember the triad. So it's a hemorrhagic condition in which you have hemorrhages, renal impairment, and jaundice. Okay, so hemorrhages, renal impairment, jaundice is the triad for Weil's disease. Weil's disease is a complication of Leptospira. Okay, Leptospira infection, jaundice, hemorrhages, renal impairment. Okay, so what is Leptospira again? Leptospira infection can happen after wading on contaminated on water which is contaminated with animal urine. Okay, it involves the liver, it can involve your kidneys, it can cause hemorrhages, flu-like symptoms, myalgias. Okay, Borrelia Burgdorferi causes Lyme's disease, transmitted by tick. Okay, and which has the bullseye lesion. After that, treponema is very important, especially treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis. 4 stages of syphilis should be remembered. Drug of choice is benzathine penicillin, except for neurosyphilis, for which it is penicillin G, okay, or aqueous penicillin. Okay, penicillin G or aqueous penicillin. Okay. Okay, then we have rickettsia. Okay, so rickettsia. Now rickettsia, the table is very commonly asked, right? So before we go to the table, first let's familiarize ourselves with these vectors. Okay, so we all know how the mosquito looks like, right? We know how the fly looks like. Okay, lice is also quite common. So lice also you might be able to identify. So what do you see here? This is an example of the head louse, body louse, and this is the crab louse. Okay, crab louse basically is related to the pubic region. Okay, so these are the diagrams for lice. This is how a tick looks like. Okay, okay, how do you differentiate? Look at the feet. Okay, look at the feet. The feet of the tick are basically coming out from the body of the tick, and look at the lice. Okay, the feet of the lice are mainly from the upper part of its body. Okay, and fleas. Okay, these are fleas. This is a flea here. Okay, this here is a tick, right? Tick. This is a tick. Okay, that's the flea. Now what is this? This is a mite. Okay, might be just look at the things in front of this thing. Okay, so that might help you to differentiate. How many pairs both have 8? Okay, so this is a mite. So mite and ticks, try to differentiate them. Okay, so mite is related to what? It's related to scabies, right? So scabies is transmitted by a mite. Okay, what does lice cause? Okay, mite is related to scabies. Lice is related to pediculosis, right? Pediculosis. Lice infection is called pediculosis. Okay, remember these are easy questions. You cannot just because you don't know the name you shouldn't answer it wrong. Okay, so pediculosis is caused by lice, scabies is caused by a mite. Okay, and look at how they look like. Now when we talk about rickettsia, there are types of rickettsia. You have rickettsia provaziki, rickettsia typhi, rickettsia rickettsii, rickettsia conuri, rickettsia akari, and then you have rickettsia susugamushi. Okay, so first of all, what do they cause? Okay, so first conuri. Okay, so conuri, remember, Indian tick typhus. So India is in the corner of the map, right? It's like in a corner of the map. So remember conuri for Indian tick typhus. Okay, Indian tick typhus. Now what is the shape of the pox virus? So actually, if you talk about the pox virus, this is not virus. Okay, I'm just for the mnemonic I'm telling you. Pox virus is box shaped virus. It's a brick shaped virus. Okay, so you can remember like the akar is the shape, right? The shape akari for the shape of pox virus. Okay, so pox virus akar you can remember. Scrub typhus starts with S and it's like susugamushi. When you say the word again, you say S, right? Susugamushi. So S. Okay. Rickettsia rickettsii, R for Rocky Mountain. Okay. Rickettsia typhi is causing endemic typhus, and provaziki is causing epidemic typhus. So pro is like pro, it's professional. Okay, so it can go all over the world. Okay, it can go all over the world. So that is epidemic typhus. Okay, and rickettsia typhi is for endemic typhus. Okay, so now out of these, the pox and scrub typhus are caused by mite. There's one which is caused by flea. Okay, so flea is endemic. Okay, epidemic is lice. So we can remember if someone, like in your school days, like if someone had lice, like everyone used to get lice, right? So louse, it spreads very fast. So remember epidemic. Okay, so epidemic typhus, remember louse or lice. Flea has E in the start. That won't help you. Okay, but it's endemic. Okay, flea for endemic typhus. And then tick is causing Rocky Mountain and Indian tick typhus. Okay, and mite for the last two. Okay, try to learn. And drug of choice is doxycycline. Okay, for rickettsia, drug of choice is doxycycline. Then we have Q fever. For Q fever, just remember the cause. So it's caused by Coxella bruneti. It's been asked. Okay, so it's important to learn the name. Okay, so how I remembered it? I remembered it like Q for queen. Okay, the queen is a brunette. Okay, she has brown hair. Okay, so brunette, bruneti for Q fever. Okay, so Q fever, Coxiella bruneti, it contaminates milk. Okay, just remember Q fever, bruneti. Also, we had other things like we had Pontiac fever, right? Pontiac fever was just now Legionella. Okay, Legionella was Pontiac fever. We had undulating fever. Undulating fever was Brucella. Okay, so these named fevers have been asked. So I told you to remember undulating, remember the U, and Bru has U, right? And Legionella for Pontiac fever, you can remember it if you people know the story of Pontius Pilate. Okay, so Pontius Pilate he did bad things. Okay, so legions are also bad, like devils are bad, and Pontius Pilate. So Pontiac fever and Legionella, you can remember. What else can you do? You can do for Bartonella. Okay, so Bartonella, two types again: Bartonella Hensley, Bartonella quintana. Okay, Bartonella Hensley causes cat scratch disease, and an important thing about that, first of all, you can remember it like hen is an animal, cat is an animal. Okay, so Hensley causes cat scratch disease. After that, a pathology question related to that is what is the type of granuloma seen in cat scratch disease? So the answer is stellate granuloma. Okay, stellate granuloma is seen in cat scratch disease caused by Bartonella Hensley. Okay, then you have chlamydia. Now chlamydia is again of 4 types, so you'll try to learn this. Okay, chlamydia 4 types. First you have chlamydia, three types here. Okay, chlamydia pneumonia. Now chlamydia pneumonia is one of the causes of atypical pneumonia. Now what is atypical pneumonia? Atypical pneumonia is called a walking pneumonia because it doesn't have much symptoms, right? It doesn't have a lot of symptoms. It happens in adolescents. Not much symptoms. What are the causes of atypical pneumonia? The mnemonic which we studied was MCL, right? MCL. What is MCL? Mycoplasma, chlamydia, and Legionella. They cause atypical pneumonia. So chlamydia is one of the causes, right? Also, for the culture, chlamydia can be cultured on McCoy's cell line. Okay, remember the C. Then we have chlamydia psittaci. We studied this also. It's related to bird handlers pneumonia. Okay, bird handlers pneumonia, chlamydia psittaci. Okay, if you have looked at people who feed birds, okay, they're usually sitting, right? They're usually sitting and then they are throwing some grains for the birds. So we can remember psittaci for bird handlers pneumonia. Okay, chlamydia psittaci for bird handlers pneumonia. Then we have chlamydia trachomatis. Now in chlamydia trachomatis, we have some serotypes, subgroups A, B, C, D to K, and then L1, L2, and L3. Now the chlamydia trachomatis A, B, C are related to trachoma. Now trachoma, we'll study more about this in Opta. This is the image of trachoma. Okay. If you remember, we use SAFE strategy, right? SAFE strategy is used for trachoma. Okay, then chlamydia D to K causes conjunctivitis. Okay, so this neonatal conjunctivitis which you see here is caused by chlamydia. Okay, and also if you remember, what was the most common cause of PID, pelvic inflammatory disease? That was also chlamydia. Okay, most common cause of PID is chlamydia, and most common cause of, what is this? This is ophthalmia neonatorum. The most common cause of that is also chlamydia. Okay, so chlamydia causes ophthalmia neonatorum. It also causes, it's the most common cause of PID also, right? Then we have chlamydia subgroup L1, L2, L3, which causes lymphogranuloma venereum. And what all other things which you saw in that? We saw that the ulcer in LGV is transient. Transient ulcer. Obviously, it's painless. Okay, it's painless. The only painful one which we saw was chancroid caused by Haemophilus zuccheri. Okay. Now this sign which you see here, these are enlarged lymph nodes against the inguinal ligament. Okay, so this is called groove sign. Groove sign. What else are the complications of LGV? You have genital elephantiasis. So when there is elephantiasis of the penis, that's called saxophone penis. When there is elephantiasis in the vulva, that's called osteomy. thiomine. Okay, so this is what was there for LGV. Now, so chlamydia, what do we learn? Chlamydia trachomatis causes trachoma. It can also cause ophthalmia neonatum. Okay, it's also the most common cause of PID. But if you remember, we studied that chlamydia PID is indolent. It doesn't really have symptoms. Which PID has symptoms if it is caused by gonorrhea? So if they ask you what is the most common cause of PID in or who come to the hospital in the OPD, which is the most common cause of PID, that will be Neisseria gonorrhea. Okay. Chlamydia, it's the most common, but it is indolent. Okay. LGV, lymphogranuloma venereum, caused by chlamydia again. It is it will have groove sign and genital elephantiasis. Then the last one, mycoplasma. So in mycoplasma, this doesn't have a cell wall. It's a bacteria without a cell wall. Okay. Without a cell wall. Now it has a fried egg appearance. Okay, so fried egg appearance, you can remember. And mycoplasma is the most common cause of atypical pneumonia. The mnemonic for atypical pneumonia was MCL. Okay, mycoplasma, chlamydia, legionella. Mycoplasma is the most common. Okay, fried egg appearance. Okay, remember this: fried egg appearance in mycoplasma. Fried egg appearance in mycoplasma. Fried egg. Later, now next we go to the coccus. Okay, coccus of gram-negative cocci. You have gonococcus, you have meningococcus. We learned this, right? Gonococcus means Neisseria gonorrhea. Neisseria gonorrhea. And I'll write it here. Gonococcus refers to Neisseria gonorrhea, and meningococci refers to Neisseria meningitis. Neisseria meningitis. Okay, so now the differences between these two: meningitis has a capsule. Okay, and if you remember, I told you gonococcus, gonorrhea only has glucose fermentation. Only glucose can be detected. In meningococcus, we have maltose detection also. Okay, so glucose and maltose are detected in meningococcus. In gonococcus, only glucose is detected. Okay, now what does it cause? I told you gonorrhea is the most common cause of PID, pelvic inflammatory diseases in what? In the OPD. Okay, because it's symptomatic. Okay, and it can also cause conjunctivitis. Okay, it can cause Fitz-Hugh-Curtis syndrome. What is Fitz-Hugh-Curtis syndrome? It's basically whenever you have gonorrhea infection, PID with gonorrhea, what will happen? There can be adhesions. Okay, adhesions in the abdomen, mainly perihepatic. Okay, perihepatic adhesions. Okay, perihepatic adhesions. They also call Weiland string adhesions. Okay, Weiland string adhesions. Okay, Weiland string adhesions. If we talk about I'll show it to you. Fitz-Hugh-Curtis syndrome. Basically, see, look at these images. Okay, can you see that the liver is attached to the peritoneum? Okay, so there is perihepatic adhesions. This is related to PID. If someone has PID, they can have this. Okay, so if ever they're giving you a case, they're telling you female patient. Usually when they talk about PID, they talk about a female patient. Okay, because females have more chance of UTI leading to pelvic inflammation. Okay, so now female patient having abdominal pain, and they give you culture results showing UTI and all. Also, they say that the liver, the right upper quadrant is there's pain in the right upper quadrant. You should think about Fitz-Hugh-Curtis. Okay, right upper quadrant pain can relate to perihepatic adhesions. Okay. Then we have the meningococcus. Okay, meningococcus case has come a lot of times. Okay, very commonly asked. It causes meningococcemia. So basically, it is meningitis. Okay, what does it cause? Meningitis. Now, what are the symptoms of meningitis? Meningitis main symptoms are fever, nuchal rigidity, right? Okay, fever, nuchal rigidity. This is normally what you see in meningitis. But if ever they are giving you a case which is commonly asked, fever, nuchal rigidity plus rash, Now this rash will only be seen in Neisseria meningitis. Okay, what is this rash? It is a petechial rash. See, you know meningitis can be because of bacteria, it can be because of virus, it can be because of fungus, it can be because of TB. Okay, and it can, one of the bacteria can also be Neisseria meningitis. Only if it is Neisseria meningitis, that will be the only case in which they'll give you fever, nuchal rigidity and petechial rash. Okay, so I will show you an image. Meningococcemia. Okay, look at this patient. Okay, the patient has small hemorrhages below his skin. Okay, these are petechiae. Okay, so if they talk about meningitis symptoms plus rash, think about Neisseria meningitis. Okay, now both of them, and then it also causes Waterhouse-Friderichsen syndrome. It also causes a DIC. What is Waterhouse-Friderichsen syndrome? It is adrenal hemorrhage. Adrenal hemorrhage. Okay, adrenal hemorrhage causes basically the cortisol, the aldosterone will decrease. Okay, now both of them are basically gram-negative cocci. Basically they are diplococci. Okay, so now when you look at this, see, I can see these coccus. Okay, some of them are inside the cells, some of them are outside the cells. So whenever they show you this image, correlate with the history because both looks approximately similar. They say here one is kidney shaped and one is lens shaped, but they nearly look similar. Okay, so gonococcus, meningococcus, if they're talking about like if they're talking about a PID case, pelvic inflammatory or a genital infection, think about gonorrhea and they'll give you this image, so that will be gonorrhea. But if they talk about meningitis, brain infection, then they give you this image, they're talking about the meningococci. Okay, so you should know the associated conditions. Okay, then it will be easy to find out, because if ever they're showing you a gram-negative diplococcus, okay, gram-negative diplococcus like this, pink color means gram-negative, and then they'll have this small diplococci inside. Okay, diplococci like this. Okay, so this is gram-negative diplococcus. If they say maltose is present, it is meningococcus. Maltose is not there, only glucose is there, that is gonococcus. Okay, and then the associated conditions. So now we are done with gram-negative coccus. Believe me, only the bacteriology part is like a little, you might find it a little hard, but other than that, we can finish it soon.